Yay! Okay, we're doing it. Okay. Oh, wait, admit. There we go. Okay, this is happening. Yay! Okay. It says, we did it! Okay, so it says that we are now live on Facebook. Sorry, I didn't get too much. But yeah, so Dorothy, if you want to introduce yourself, because I kind of was talking for a little bit while you're figuring things out.
Hi everyone. My name is Dorothy Nanadwa Bwatma. My last name is Atakrejan. I've been doing shame research for about 8 years. I started my PhD looking at food sovereignty work and feminist issues, and then I transitioned. I was more interested in how do emotions get in our way as feminists, right? Often when there's conflict, we have, as somebody who comes from the social sciences, we have language to identify what that looks like, right? Kirsten picked me off, she gave me a look, or it was racism, it was a microaggression, but we don't often talk about the invisible, not to say that racism is not something that is, we know as Black women that we struggle to prove to people that racist microaggressions happen, right? So of course that also is lodged in a realm that's not quote unquote visible, although it can be. But I think emotions even less understood are emotions and trauma and how that gets in our way.
Absolutely.
So that's what I do. That's kind of the work I look at.
Yay!
I
Okay.
often find it troubling when sometimes within like spiritual practices or in other communities, experts are always looking at like, you did this and you are right. And I think sometimes that could be off-putting or jarring, especially for me. So when I was doing this work, it was really important that I look at myself.
Exactly.
How is shame impacting me and my relationships with other people? So that's the kind of work that I do. It's difficult work because obviously nobody wants to talk about shame, right? What shame is universal. We all have it, and yet no one wants to talk about it. No one wants to admit that they have shame. Everybody is just looking at somebody else's shame and like, girl, I ain't got no shame. And I want to disrupt that. I want to unmask shame, and I want us to do that together. So that's kind of the background of where I'm coming from.
Amazing. Yeah, I think, and that's why we're here today, I think, to talk about two topics that no one likes to really talk about is money and shame and how they relate to each other, because I think that a lot of people are unaware, and like you said, a lot of people are pushing away their shame. You know, they're looking to blame other people, they're looking to put the shame in other people, and they don't turn their perspective onto themselves. And that's how, in order to live a life that we want, in order to have financial freedom, in order to just, you know, be happier, I think you have to turn your perspective and look within yourself.
Agreed.
Excellent.
Did you do your intro already, or did I miss that?
I'll do it again, just like really fast, just for anyone else that has popped in. So yeah, my name is Kirsten, and I'm a money mindset coach. And so what I do is I help primarily women of color change their mindset around money so that they can live a life of financial freedom. I really try to help a lot of the women that, you know, feel like they do all the budgeting, you know, or they feel like they're not good with budgets, they're not good with numbers. And a lot of the times what gets in our way of actually having the money that we want or having the financial freedom that we want, it's not just like the numbers and the strategy, but also the mindset and how we think about money, how we view about money, and how we view ourselves. And all that affects our mindset. And I help women to create this better, stronger mindset so that they can live a life of financial freedom.
Awesome.
Yes, excellent. So yeah, so Dorothy, how would you define shame, and particularly shame around money?
So shame in the literature is what others like Brene Brown have called a master emotion. And that means for me, it's tied with a lot of different emotions, such as fear. Within the work, because shame is such a subjective experience, right? It's really difficult to actually define and what shame is compared to what is embarrassment, compared to what is humiliation. So shame is a very subjective emotion. It's universal, right? We all have and experience shame. Although different cultures have made sense of shame differently throughout the different centuries, right? Some cultures are better at negotiating shame, while others are, like the Greeks, for instance, were really big on public shaming. So, um, shame at the definition of shame is to cover or covering, right? So shame functions in that same way, especially when we're talking about money. So what you find is no one really talks about their finances. The post I shared with you earlier from Afrosexology, they did a brilliant post on relationships and money, right? And I think that's such an important post because a lot of people do end up getting married and they never disclose their financial status. We're afraid to talk about our debt. People are keeping up with the Joneses. Meanwhile, they're in thousands of dollars of credit card debt. So when we're talking about shame and money, we have to understand that is the core definition of shame, is to cover or to hide. If you feel like you need to cover something, if you feel like you need to hide something, again, there's nuance to this, right? Not like everything, there's privacy. Just because I want some privacy doesn't mean I'm ashamed. So this is a difficulty when we're doing this work. It's so subjective, but that's one of the ways in which I think a lot of us are struggling with shame right now. Is we don't want others to know exactly what we're going through. Like I shared with you earlier today before this call, I posted about my own finances, right? And that's something that's terrifying to do. It's very vulnerable. You don't share your shame experiences with everybody. So I know that there will be people who will use it against me or laugh, but I come from a very highly surveillance life. And so for me, I recognize that somebody probably already knows what's in my bank account. Do you know what I mean? Why not be able to share that, to let others know that even though I'm an independent shame researcher, I'm still unemployed. There are still challenges that women of color face and deal with. And we should not be ashamed of it because that is capitalism, that is white supremacy, that is anti-Blackness that puts us in these particular situated experience where we don't have money. And if we do, it's not enough. And if it is, we're allocating it to so many other places but ourselves. So that's one thing that I wanted us to really talk about is when it comes to shame and money, shame is about hiding and covering. That's not to say that privacy means you're ashamed of something. It's okay to keep things private and to not disclose everything. I want us to contextualize that different nuance. So that's one of the ways in which it works.
No, I think that's a great definition and very clear. And I was wondering, as you're speaking, and you touched upon this a little bit, but why do you think people cover up their financial issues? Like, why are people afraid to, say, oh, I'm in debt, or afraid to say like, oh, I only have like $50 in my account? Or why do you feel like people need to like cover up and hide and not talk about their financial issues?
So this is how emotions work in tandem with some of the more socio-political economic constructs, right? In our society, in a capitalist society, hustle culture, we live in cultures with this myth of meritocracy where if you haven't made it, it's because you aren't trying hard enough. You haven't strapped up your bootstraps. And so the ways in which we've constructed money within a capitalist society is inherently rooted in shame, because white supremacy is white people projecting their shame onto others. So shame and white supremacy work in hand. Shame and capitalism works hand in hand. We've all been told that if you're not making an X amount, right? And this is also tied to ageism. I just turned 36. I'm supposed to have made it. I should have bought a house by now. I should have been married. I should have had children, should, right? So we have this list of things that people are supposed to do by a certain amount of time to prove their worth. Guess what? That is a huge definition of shame. Brene Brown's work talks about shame as this, she calls them tapes, right? So it's this constant, I'm not enough, I'm not enough, I'm not enough. Yeah. Or if you do think you are, others are looking at you and being like, who do you think you are?
Yeah.
Right? You should be ashamed of yourself. As a Black woman, I am supposed to be in so much shame that I shouldn't make my presence large. I shouldn't exist carefree as I am, because the assumption is Black women are supposed to be ashamed of ourselves. We're supposed to keep our mouths quiet. We're supposed to hide ourselves. We're not supposed to have the big hair that draws attention to us.
Exactly.
And if you have money, you're supposed to give it to everybody else, or, there's so many different ways in which we construct shame. And that's one thing. Another thing too is performance. Shame is deeply tied to performance and wearing masks, right? So because vulnerability is exposure.
Yeah.
When I'm vulnerable, it means I feel really exposed. Like I feel like people are watching me. I call it being put up on the scaffold, right? Where you put something up and then it's like, oh gosh, here I am. Everybody's looking at me.
You can see
so
me.
What do? You put on a mask, right? We perform how people think we want to. And that is also a big thing. Keeping up with the Joneses is a huge aspect of that. We pretend we have more than we do because it makes we fit in. Who doesn't want to fit in?
Exactly.
Right? We're hardwired to belong. So if fitting me in means that I need to look and dress like the latest celebrity, if I need to cop these shoes to make my peers look at me and think some kind of way, if I need to buy this car, that's performance. I'm gonna let you know that I done made it and you didn't.
Yeah.
And that's gonna shame you. Meanwhile, it's more about your shame that you're in, that you need to perform and to have this one up over people.
Exactly. Oh, that's like a really good, different perspective on shame, of like feeling like once you get to a certain point, like you have to shame others, but that's really your own shame, because you feel like I'm up here and I have to keep pushing people down so that I can stay up top. And that's just another form of shame. It's not that you are actually better than anyone, because no one's really better than anyone else, but it's that insecurity and that shame that comes out in a different way.
Yeah, but you have to remember that illusions, all of this, again, I'm not going to get philosophical or too deep, but everything starts with an idea, right?
Yeah.
And so it works. If I shame you, I've seen, even during these COVID times, I've seen some Black women, celebrities, who are just throwing it in people's faces, like, yeah, bitch, I'm rich.
Yeah.
Bitch, you're rich, nigga, and so what? You know what I mean? But that's so what? They know it matters.
Yeah.
They know that it makes us feel better about ourselves. That's how shame works. Right? If I can make you feel as small as possible, do you know how big and large that makes me feel? That's shame. The ego loves shame scripts. Just like it loves fear, our egos love shame scripts. And I'm also caught in this as well too, right? I'm not talking at you. This is me. I struggle. Today I'm working through a shame day. So shame, usually the first 48 hours is when we can be the most destructive and get into some of these most maladaptive patterns. So just pay attention to somebody when they're publicly shamed.
Yeah.
That's what I'm doing right now. Yesterday I had a public humiliation, and now I'm paying attention. What did the next 48 hours look like me? How am I being passive aggressive with others? How am I trying to assert power and domination over others? And that has a lot to do with how I think people make more money than me, how I feel less than, right? So if I go at you now because you're a celebrity and you're rich and capitalism, we don't like that. Now that's a different perspective, but that's my shame working. That's how my shame works. And so, that's one way in which we get performance on both spectrums. You have the elites who have money and will shame those who do not. You didn't work hard enough. You're not as talented as I am. Right. And then we have those of us that are poor or low income status negotiating our shame, and we'll do it to somebody less, or we'll look down on those who are doing it differently than we do.
Exactly. There's something I wanted to go back to that I think a lot of people face, especially with money, because I think that people believe that, life is a linear path. You start here and you're supposed to go up. I know, but it's really, I heard, I can't remember who exactly said this. These are not my words exactly, but someone said, that, you know, life in actuality is like in seasons and in phases. You know, some seasons you're going to have like a lot of growth and it's going to be like spring, and money might flow into your life. And then you might have some seasons where it's a little bit dry and you're not, you know, the money flow is a little bit different. And to look at it that way. And so I'm kind of thinking to myself, like, for women, I felt this way too, especially because, you know, I'm 31 and I moved abroad. And even though that looks glamorous, and it is in a lot of ways, my income changed a lot because I went from, you know, living in California where I was getting a steady paycheck and I was getting reliable income, to moving abroad and working for myself, and then working for other organizations where I was getting paid like a lot less than what I was making in California. And that took a hit because I was like, well, I'm, you know, I was in my late 20s, and I was like, shouldn't I be making more money than this? Or like, should I be asking for more? You know, what's wrong with me if I'm not making a certain income level? And to know that your age isn't whatever age you are, there is no like, you're 40, so you should be making this amount of money. You're this age, so you should be making that amount of money. That is something that's socially constructed. And it does not matter, you know, what age you are. The age and your level of income are not related at all. So I think that's important for people to know. Is there any other like insider advice you would give other women who kind of feel like, oh God, like I'm getting older and I'm only making this certain amount of money? Yeah, is there any insight that you'd want to give to women that might think that?
Again, I'm right there with you guys, right? So it's not like I'm this expert or influencer who's made it and now I'm right there, right? Yeah. And that goes on to, we were talking earlier about what we feel when we're talking about money. What does it feel like to open up your bank account? It's terrifying. For those of us who are unemployed, the COVID pandemic has left a lot of people unemployed. People are getting laid off. Businesses are shutting down. I've had a business fail previous to COVID, and I'm seeing a lot of business owners who are mourning their businesses going down, and I feel them because it's painful. Like I would cry, and I'm still mourning that death, right? So we don't talk enough about the emotions that come with money. Checking my bank account this morning it's like anxiety ridden, right?
Yeah.
What am I did my student loan come in yet? No, fuck, okay, shoot. I don't have it, my cell phone is broken. I don't have money for, you know what I mean? Like it brings up fear.
Yeah.
But it also brings up shame, which is I'm not enough.
Yes.
Right? I'm not worthy. Shame is also, so I'm gonna pause to give you a caveat between the difference between guilt and shame.
Okay.
Guilt is I have done wrong. And this is not my definition, this is in the literature, others have talked about it. So when we feel guilty, it's because we feel like we have done something wrong.
Right.
We feel like when we're in shame, we feel like we are wrong. Right? So shame is like, okay, I feel wrong, I feel bad. I should have been more, you know, maybe I should have respected people and like respectability politics, and then I'd get a job. Or, you know, we get into all of these different scripts, which shame loves. Brene Brown, again, her work talks about shame stories. We love to tell our shame stories, myself included. I love to get into that woe is me, like everybody did this to me. And because it feels so good to blame somebody else. It feels good to judge when we're feeling shitty and about our own shame, right? So those are some of the things that come up. I want us to be more honest about when you're checking, and I'm sure, I'm wondering if maybe even those who do have money, but the money is never enough, if they even have struggles with shame.
I think so. Right? Yeah, I believe so.
Now I'm making 200K, but oh gosh, my friend over there is making 500K. Yeah. Now I have shame around that. Oh my God, I'm making $1 million, but like Jeff Bezos over there is making billions. Oh God, like that's capitalism. That's how emotions, we weaponize emotions. Emotions are political. Sarah Ahmed's work says emotions are political. Say it with me. Emotions are political. They're political.
Yes.
right? You could be making $1 million and you're still going to feel like you're not enough, because guess what? The system has been set up so somebody, probably a white man or woman, is above you that's making way more than you, that's going to make you feel this small about yourself. And you're going to want to strap on those bootstraps and just get to work and hustle and grind. And for what? To drive yourself to an early grave just to show somebody else that you made money?
Exactly. Yes.
Right. So
I wanted, yeah, oh, that's just like so many gems and so many like different directions that we could go with that, because I do agree with everything that you said. I did want to, I was thinking for those people that do feel like, they're at a certain age and they should be making more, or they're not making enough. One perspective change that might help is, I feel that way too, is I always try to think about what value that I'm bringing to this world. And I focus on that, because if I focus on the value that I bring into this world, then eventually the money's going to come. The money's going to come. But there's so many people that are making, unfortunately, millions of dollars and are making this world a worse place than it is. So if you look at it in that perspective, like if you are living your purpose and you are bringing value to this world, focus on that instead of the number that's in your bank account.
So now what you're bringing up, if you don't mind me interjecting, is, so Audre Lorde in Sister Outsiders, Audre Lorde has a chapter on the uses of anger. And in it, she talks about how for Black women, especially who are angry, we have reason to be, and our anger actually is very productive. And others and myself, we want to look at how shame could be productive. So one of the shame, obviously, I look at shame's destructive elements, and I also look at the productive elements of shame. And there's a lot of productive elements. Shame is, public shaming especially, is great if you want to get somebody to transform.
Interesting. Okay.
Right? Because why is that? When you're put to shame, you're being exposed, you're vulnerable, all eyes are on you, right? Especially for a lot of narcissists who are so used to projecting and blaming everybody else, when all of a sudden you feel like, y'all looking at me now?
Yeah.
Right? It's gonna make you, at least in my experience, it pushes you to actually look at yourself from an outsider, right? In sociology, there's different ways of contextualizing it, the looking glass, but like you now are almost looking at how others perceive you. And so shame could be very productive in that way, where you now have no choice but to face yourself, whatever that looks like. Shame is very productive in terms of self-reflection. Right? So it leads us to interrogate our lives, to assess why and how people look at us. And that could be very transformative. That could be very, very transformative. So just to use my example, what this looks like is, back in on September 26th, I got kicked out of where I was living, right? Huge shame, so much shame, that I'm still working through. However, it also has allowed me to really go into myself, like you were saying, to figure out I am still worthy. Whether I have a home or not, I am still worthy. I am still deserving of good things in life. And now you have to confront things differently and make different moves, right? So shifting, looking in a different direction, reframing the ways in which we're making sense of ourselves and our shame is huge.
Yeah.
So one thing that's been really productive for me is saying, okay, this is a perfect opportunity. All my stuff is in storage. I don't have anywhere to go. I've always wanted to travel. This is a perfect opportunity for me to be a digital nomad.
Absolutely.
Right? I've always identified with nomadic life and moving around. Well, why not use that shame creatively to redefine my identity and claim it for myself with some agency, as opposed to being like, oh my God, I got kicked out, I'm homeless, and like, which often and again, all of that is fine. I'm not shaming that. All of that is fine. I stay crying. I cried earlier this morning. Like, it's you need that space to sit in your shame and to feel how painful it is, how much it sucks. And then at some point you can't get stuck in it. So I gotta get up and say, okay, here are the uses. It's teaching me that I'm actually stronger than I thought I was. It's
Mhm.
teaching me that I have to be able to ask people for help. Oh
Mhm.
gosh, okay, this shame is teaching me I have too much pride,
Mhm.
right? Or I'm actually I can be creative and work on a business. And so that's
Mhm.
how we can sit in the discomfort of shame and
Mhm.
use it to transform our lives. Shame
Mhm.
has so much information. Emotions have so much information and data that if we can just learn how to mine it, how to extract it, how to feel it, then it can really guide us into a completely different direction that we never even knew was possible.
Mhm. That's amazing. And I love that. I think it's so empowering to know that you can use this to better yourself. I think that so many people, like you said, like they fear their emotions. You know, if they feel uncomfortable, if they feel the shame coming on, they'll run from it. They will, self-medicate. They will do all these things, either they'll sit in it, but then they'll stay stuck in it, or I feel like they'll try to avoid it. And I think that, one thing, whoever listens to this, if you're starting to feel that shame, particularly around money or anything, I think the great question to ask yourself is like, okay, how can I use this shame to get me to where I want? How can I what can I learn from this shame? What is this shame trying to teach me? And I think if you kind of maybe look at shame as not like, this ugly demon type of thing, but kind of like that teacher you had in school that was like really strict and like you like probably hated him or her, but in the end you saw that like, oh my goodness, they were just trying to make me better. Like I think looking at shame that way versus just kind of this icky feeling can really help you to create the life that you want.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And again, just to bring up spiritual bypassing, you can't pass. I don't want it to be, how do I say this? We also need a moment to sit in the discomfort,
We do,
right?
absolutely.
We need a moment to sit in that discomfort because I think one other aspect of shame is painful.
Hmm.
And I don't mean this metaphorically. I don't mean this
No,
figuratively.
yeah,
It's not just
absolutely.
like this nice language Dorothy's right as a writer. No, shame is painful. You will feel it in your body. When somebody shames you, it brings up discomfort in us. Our
Hmm.
blood starts racing differently. Our pulse changes. We might start sweating. For me, I feel it in my bones and my muscles, right?
Hmm.
So learning to pay attention to what our body feels like. How does shame play with us in our mind bodies?
Mhm,
Right?
mhm,
What are the scripts we start to tell ourselves?
mhm,
Mine is always like, I'm not enough.
mhm,
Nobody likes me. Nobody wants me. You know what I mean? Those are some of the scripts that come up for me. I know that I feel it in my pelvic bone. I feel it in my left side. So
mhm.
we have to start paying attention to what and how shame is messing with us and
Mhm.
to not try to beat it,
Yeah.
right? We're going to try to beat it because shame is an affect because it moves us,
Mhm.
right? There's some emotions and you can feel it, but to affect means it will move you to do something that you're not even always conscious of. So you might reach
Exactly.
for a beer, you might reach for a joint, you may want to sleep
Mhm,
with somebody, right?
mhm,
Pay it, and that's not, don't shame it because I'm really bad with shaming myself when I'm in shame. And that's
mhm,
something I've observed over at least the last 5 years. This is how I
mhm,
do it. So if more of us can pay attention to what shame feels like in the moment of shame, and
mhm.
maybe, if somebody shames you at work, right? Just take 5 minutes to go to the bathroom,
Yeah.
center and ground yourself like this.
Yes.
Because otherwise you're gonna get aggressive. You're gonna get passive aggressive. You're gonna do some shit that's gonna end up getting you fired.
Mhm, mhm.
And then all of a sudden you're like, well, Shane did it. Not, like,
Yeah.
so that really helps. Sit in it and then literally ask your body questions. Again, I learned this from other spiritual practitioners. Teal
Mhm.
Swan talks about this. Miriam Hassan talks about this. Like, speak to your body.
Yes. Yes.
Ask yourself, what am I feeling?
Mhm,
Right?
mhm,
And then give yourself, don't do anything. Just close your eyes and give your body permission to communicate back to you. Oh, girl,
mhm,
you're feeling shame. Why
mhm,
am I feeling shame? Ooh, they looked at, you know what I mean? Like, and
mhm.
then what, and I always ask, like, what is this here to teach me?
Exactly.
What is this
Exactly.
here to teach me? How can I work with this in a different way? How can I channel this creatively? right? Asking yourself some of those questions will
Yeah.
help you negotiate your shame more than I will, more than
Yeah.
Brene Brown will, more than any other shame. Like you have your own keys,
Exactly.
your own healing. And so that is something that um we don't often talk about. It's like we have, it sounds corny, but like we have everything we need right within us.
We do. And I think that is the job ideally, like of a coach, of a therapist, of whoever, is just to help. And that's my job as a coach, and why I do what I do, is to help people realize that they have everything inside of them already, that they are enough, that they are worthy. They just have to access this, and they have to utilize it, and they have to like shed all of the layers of conditioning that society has given to us to access that. But like you said, we all have what we need already inside of us. We were born with everything that we need. We just get our minds fucked to thinking that we don't, and thinking that we need these extra things, you know?
Yes, but again, we don't want to blame ourselves solely,
That's true.
because we may have everything, but white supremacy don't give up,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Anti-Black racism doesn't give up about whether you have it or not. So I also don't want us to blame ourselves and recognize that there are reasons why a lot of us are struggling. There are reasons why Black women, more than any other group, yes, we're some of the greatest, most brilliant business women, but that's also because we know that we don't make it we don't do it for us, nobody else is going to.
Exactly.
And another way to productively look at shame and understanding that public shaming works, I think I'm right now more invested in shaming celebrities and Black elites and those who have it unapologetically. Because you know what? The poor, the working class, we stay getting shamed for every single thing.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And now as a shame researcher, once I want, like, again, my call to action would be, if you want, I can teach you how to redirect shame. Because Sarah Ahmed's work says that emotions are objects that flow and move. So they're moving all around. Guess what? In one of her articles, it was 2003, I don't remember it, but Sarah Ahmed talks about fear, and she's talking about it within a British context. And she looks at how refugees and immigrants so often are bombarded with fear, whereas the dominant class, white people, often do not feel it the same way. So for Ahmed, she says that emotions can slide over some and stick onto us. Well, guess who shame sticks onto the most? Women like us.
Yes.
Women like us.
Yes.
Black women who were constructed as shameful, who were told that we should be ashamed of ourselves and each other. Like attracts like energy. So if there's already a lot of shame sticking onto me, guess what? We're just an emotional sponge to all of this shame, especially when people are projecting it on. People love to project shame onto us.
Absolutely.
So that's going to stick on us. No. Return that to sender. That's not mine. Let's see how you feel with all of this shame.
Yes.
Right? And I think that is a radical act when we're so bombarded with shame, and when the shame is so political that it's so painful that it's tied to our chronic illness, it's tied to depression and anxiety, suicide ideations, and suicide, period. Shame is no joke. That's what I want us to understand. Shame is no joke. We weaponize it, and it literally will kill other people. You put on somebody in enough fear and shame, most likely they're gonna become depressed. They're gonna have way more anxiety. They're gonna have way more suicide ideations. I don't want that for me and my sisters. I don't, straight up. So if I can help us with how to negotiate our shame, how to redirect it back to sender, because that's not mine. You white people, you men, you oppressors, you sit in this. I see what you're doing it. Thank you so much. You tried it. Return to sender.
And return to sender. I love that. That's such like a powerful phrase. And I think that people can use that whenever they feel like someone is putting shame onto them, as just, mentally saying, or, even if you want verbally, return to sender. Like, no, thank you.
Return to sender.
Yeah, no thanks. This is not what I wanted. This is not what I ordered. I did not press send on this. have it back. I release it.
And energy cannot be destructed, but it can be transmuted and returned.
Exactly.
So
Mhm.
and that's really where I want my work to move more and more, is to work with other
Mhm.
humans, other women, particularly other Black women specifically,
Mhm.
on identifying what shame is, how it feels in our mind bodies, and how it's obstructing our relations with other people. Because what we're finding right now, especially if you look, there's so much public shaming going on. Everybody's airing everybody's dirty laundry. We're
Mhm.
all just fighting each other with shame. We're trying to gain the upper hand. So
Mhm.
it's gonna lead to more cattiness. It's gonna lead to more bitchiness. It's gonna lead to more pettiness, more aggression, more
Mhm.
anger. Because to discharge shame, we often will use aggression and anger.
Mhm.
If somebody shames you, it's not very uncommon that you're going to want to kill that person. We literally will kill people for how, look at the amount of Black trans women that end up dying and being murdered.
Yeah, it's
We
evident.
can't have that conversation without talking about shame and how their other people's male fragilities, white fragilities, whatever fragilities is getting triggered because my existence makes you feel so what? Right? And so we have to, I want us, if there's any one message, I want us to leave remembering that shame is political. Shame is not a joke, right?
Mhm.
We often frame emotions as feminine. Women are emotional. Well, guess what? A lot of men who kill, who fight, y'all are some of the most emotional.
Absolutely.
We need to learn how to tap into that, how to control our emotions. I don't like that term,
Mhm.
but rather how to work with our emotions as an
Mhm.
ally rather than an enemy. So we are not obstructing our solidarity with each other. So we can even, we don't have to like each other, but we can show up to do this work for Black liberation, do it well without, sending us into crisis or people
Mhm.
wanting to kill themselves because a
Mhm.
bully feels so much better about taking the upper hand. Like,
Right.
so. And
Exactly.
that's all tied to money.
It
That's all tied to money. Everything is money in this world,
It is. Yes, it is. It is energy.
right?
It's everything. It's everywhere. And I think that's why, we need to talk about it more. This is why we need more transparency. This is why we need to start to disassociate who we are and our self-worth from money. And
And
looking
can
at
I
the
just say one thing along with that? If you
Mhm.
want to see just how powerful shame and money is, cancel somebody or mess with their money. See
Exactly.
how quick
They
people don't like
react.
when you mess with their money. People don't
Mhm.
mess like when you, let's say it again. People do not like when you mess with their money.
Mhm. Mhm.
They will come at you to fight shame with that because that is, it's threatening,
It
right?
is.
So when we're having a conversation around shame, I also don't want us to leave here without thinking about shame and aggression and anger and rage,
Mhm.
because
Mhm.
those are all intimately tied. You
Mhm.
mess with somebody's money,
It literally reminds me of like those movies, like the mob movies where like you see like the guys sending in the people to like break their kneecaps or like intimidate them, all because and they're always like, "Where's my money? Where's my money?" Because when you mess with someone's money, you mess with their livelihood, you mess with who they are, you mess with their
identity.
reputation, their identity, exactly. And that is, I think, a core problem is that people attach their identity to their money, and your identity, it's not that. Who you are is not your money. Who you are is not your bank account. I think that's what I want everyone to know. Why I do the work that I do is that your money and who you are is separate. They're not tied. Society will teach you that they are together, but it's not, because the money, that can change. That can change at any point in time. We have cryptocurrencies. We could one day, like the banks could blow up. That can all change. But who you are, that's consistent. That's going to be here for longer. That's what's going to make the impact. So, Stephanie commented, which we could probably do, like if you want completely another live on, because I think it's a whole topic itself, but just that she said that she's been working on her negative self-talk, but never thought about how shame affects my body. And I'm as a dancer myself, like I'm totally big on how emotions and how they are felt and registered in in our body. And I love that, like, you know, when you're starting to feel those things in your body, of taking that moment. I do a practice too of just like breathing into those areas of the body. Like I feel a lot of tension in my stomach when I feel shame, like almost like someone's like punching me, or there's like these little needles in my stomach. And so I literally will take time, like I'll lie on the floor, I'll put my hands on my stomach and just like breathe into that, and let your body know that, like, okay, I'm here, I'm listening. Because if you don't, you're, like you said, your body's going to react. Your body's going to reach for that drink, it's going to reach for your phone, it's going to like throw something, it's going to react because it. Mm-hmm.
Capitalism loves shame because
Mm-hmm.
it makes us want to purchase things to feel better about ourselves.
Exactly. Go on Amazon, you're going to purchase something. Yes, your body will respond in that way if you don't listen to it.
They don't want you laying down and doing yoga and being like, oh, I can work through this myself. No, they want you to reach for that card, to go
Exactly.
online and buy and hoard and consume. So that's exactly one aspect of shame. And when we're shaming fat bodies for especially,
Mm-hmm.
right? You tie shame to this normative idea of who's beautiful, thin,
Mm-hmm.
light skin or white,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right? So when you have all of these, there's somebody's work, their body projects. I don't remember who we teach our students this in our feminist department. I don't remember whose work it is, Odette, anyways, but they had talk about body projects, right? That's shame works with that. If you are now feeling so bad about your fat belly, ooh, capitalism can't wait to get you on the surgical table.
Yep.
Oh, they can't wait for you to get into those diet pills and those stupid teas, and
Mm-hmm.
you know what I mean? So
And spend all that money on those diet pills, spend all that money on the surgery, and then feel bad because you spent all that money and you still feel like shit. Because that's usually what happens. We make those purchases, we spend the money because we think that we spend the money, it'll make us feel better, it'll make our shame go away, but spending the money won't. Spending the money will only amplify that shame.
and it will likely bring up guilt. I've done bad, but it also will bring up shame. I am bad.
Exactly. Yeah, and I think that's a very strong distinction. The feeling like I did bad and I am bad. Those are two different things.
Yeah.
Excellent. Oh my goodness. I mean, I feel like we can just go in so many different directions. But are there any?
We can do more lives together.
We definitely need to do more lives together. Like everything that you spoke about, either I like spoke about this week, or I've been practicing. Like it was just very like all this stuff around shame, I think is so important. And it made me realize a lot of things that I've been doing in the past, and things and how I can change it in the future. So yes, definitely more lives. Is there any last messages, or if people want to work with you, how can they get in touch with you?
So right now I have my website, www.deearchives.com, darchives.com. You can visit my website. I have blog articles on there. I am also working on being able to provide more content. I'm looking at more collaborations like this. So if you have a client, if you have an audience that you think is struggling to work through shame, or you think might want to learn more about shame, definitely visit my website, go to the contact me page. My page for booking consult is not live right now, and that's intentional because I want to be able to be better prepared for my offerings. So in the future, look out, I'm going to be offering more courses. I also do public speaking. So if you're looking for somebody to come have a conversation with your audience, definitely let me know. Go to my website, visit the contact me, send me an email, or even DM me. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Facebook and Instagram at darchives, as well as Pinterest and LinkedIn.
Amazing.
So those are some of the ways. Soon I'll be taking one-on-one consultations for coaching as well too. So I'm not a licensed therapist. I'm not a registered therapist or social worker. That's not the work I do. I will strictly be providing coaching on how to work through shame and how to use it to transform our lives for the better. for the better of all of us.
Yay, great.
What
And
about
I'll
you?
link, yeah, oh, totally. I'll link when the live recording or the replay comes up with this video, I'll put the link to your website so that way it'll be easier for people to find you. And yes, I would love to continue to support women. I'm a money mindset coach, as I said before. So if you kind of feel like you're stuck when it comes to your financial situation, and you've tried all the budgeting, you've tried this program, and it's just like not working, I can almost guarantee you that it's probably your mindset and how you view and how you treat your money. And so if you want to work with me, there's two ways. One, I just opened up my Money Queens membership or community. So it's $5 a month and you can join it and you'll get weekly and monthly trainings, video trainings from me about how to change your money mindset and start seeing the results that you want and start living a life of true financial freedom on your terms, not on the terms of what everyone else says financial freedom is, but living financial freedom in a way that aligns with who you are in your life. And I'm also, send me a message. I'm also accepting consultations for one-on-one money mindset coaching. Yes.
Thank you so much for inviting me to this. These are really important conversations. They're very difficult conversations to have. I think so many of us are struggling through shame and money, especially right now when money is so scarce.
Exactly.
For so many of us during this COVID pandemic. Just remember, you are enough, right? Your bank account does not determine the worth of your value.
Yep.
It's not your fault. There are serious forces working against us. And it's just, there's just so much state of entropy right now where we're being blocked for being our best full versions of ourselves. And money is one way in which we do that. Financial abuse is real. Economic abuse is real, right? When white supremacy sabotages Black and people of color's ability to make and earn money, that's not just a conversation of white supremacy. That's also violence and real abuse. That's financial abuse. That's economic abuse. And we don't talk about it enough. Or if we do, we only frame it in the context of intimate partner relationships and individual and not the systemic and structural. We have to start holding our governments and these corporations, multi-billion corporate, we have to start addressing and naming that this is financial abuse. You can't have women working in export processing zones in the Pacific, meaning making dollars an hour while we're selling these clothes for thousands and hundreds of dollars. That's not right. No, that's definitely not right. Yeah. Right? That is financial and economic abuse. And we have to start naming the structures and the systems, not just ourselves and individuals too. So I'll just leave it there.
Yeah, I love like what you had said earlier. It's just like, it's not your fault. Like, I think that so many people, we blame ourselves. It's like, it's not your fault, but you do have the power to change it. You do have the ability to change it. And I think that's what, I want people to know, if they get anything from this, is that whatever financial situation you are in, whatever economical or, life situation you're in, it's not your fault. There's so many other forces, but you do have the power to change it.
We have the power because there's power in community and the collective.
Absolutely.
That's how shit's getting done right now, right? And I see so many people showing up for other people financially, and that's huge, right? One of Black feminism says, we all we got.
Exactly.
We all we got, right? And I think that's a conversation for next time, but that is such a way to stick it to shame, to say, you know what, sis, I'm gonna show up for you. You can't pay that bill, I got you. That, like, the power in community it's a touchy subject for me, but I think it's so crucial. And if we can just learn to support and be there for one another, it just kicks all of these systems of domination to the curb and puts the gaze and it centers ourselves and our voices and our lived experiences.
Absolutely.
So, thanks for this, Kristen. This was great.
This is amazing. I enjoyed it so much and I learned so much. And so this will be recorded or stay on Facebook. We'll share it. If you watch it, make sure anyone that watches it, make sure that you push the share button and share it with people that you know so that we can get this message out more.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Welcome. Until
Let's
next
do this
time.
again soon, okay? Bye,
Yeah.
everyone. Thank you for joining. If you're watching this in the future, hello, leave a comment still, right?
Yes, please comment. Yes, please comment what stuck out to you, what you really enjoyed. Leave a comment so we know for next time, what to focus on more. Yeah.
All right. Take
Right.
care.
Bye.
Bye.